All right, welcome back to another Startup Junkies podcast. My name is Davis McIntyre. Thank you for tuning in, whether you are watching us or listening. We appreciate it. Be sure to like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff so you can catch up with the Startup Junkie crew weekly. I'm joined today by my co-host Jeff and Victoria. How you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Good,
Glad to be here.
Awesome. I'm very excited about the podcast today. Today we have joining us is Adam and Kfir Alfia from Real-Time Feedback. Guys, how are you doing today?
Wonderful. And yourself?
Doing fantastic, doing fantastic. So before we get into kind of an origin story, could you give us a little bio on what Real-Time Feedback is, what you guys do?
Sure. It's a two-way customer communication platform, private customer communication platform that allows customers at any business to directly communicate with management digitally in real time to give both compliments and criticisms to try to fix issues while they're doing business at the business.
Amazing, amazing. Well, yeah, let's get right into it. What's kind of your story leading up to Real-Time Feedback? Both of you guys, if you want to take turns.
Yeah, so my brother and I have run a company for the last 17 years called Maestro, and that's a digital personal assistant, a live remote agent. Mm-hmm. We started in 2005. Our biggest footprint, if we think of OnStar and what that was for GM, we duplicated that type of environment for non-GM vehicles. And we are currently in 4 manufacturers' vehicles: Nissan, Mitsubishi, Subaru, and Infiniti. And any of those 4 cars, if you push the soft button in the car on the heads unit or in the on the roof, it'll come to our call center here in Dallas. And we pretty much help you with pretty much anything you need. Think of about like American Express Black Card. You call up and you want tickets or dinner reservations, or I'm flying to Italy and my wife only eats vegan. Plot out the whole week of restaurants. Anything you want, we take care of. Our motto is really anything, anytime, anywhere. And we've been doing that for the last 17 years. And so we're really hypersensitive to customer experience. When a customer calls up our service, we want them to hang up the phone and go, wow, that was one of the best phone experiences I've ever had with anybody. And we've really noticed a big decline in customer engagement, customer experience, customer service, especially in the last 7 years. And I think it was really even more so when during the pandemic, where there's no more in-face experiences for a while. And now that it's come back, and now with the whole big quit, it's really hard to get qualified, customer-oriented employees. So a lot of businesses are just grabbing warm bodies. Hey, if you've got a heartbeat and you can speak, you're hired. And you see in the McDonald's giving $1,000 bonus just to work, crazy hourly wages. So it's really put a clamp on finding, for normal businesses, it's really expensive now to find a good customer experience person that can come in and handle that customer when they walk in. And my brother and I would always swap horror stories of experiences we had at restaurants or otherwise. And we always talked about this type of, mechanism where I wish I can speak to the manager and tell them what I'm seeing right now. But it's always really been hard. You don't want to make a phone call and, hey, can I speak to a manager? If I'm walking around a Bed Bath & Beyond and I see something with an employee on their phone for 5 minutes, and not helping any customers. I mean, for myself, I sometimes, if it's really egregious, I will go find the manager and say, hey, I take a picture. I go, just so you know, there's somebody here just on their phone and I was looking for help and they weren't interested in helping me. But most people won't. So we built a really cool platform for customers, if they are having an issue, to directly message management and hopefully fix issues before, as everybody knows, if somebody goes online and blasts that business, gives them 1 star, that's really detrimental for the business. If a manager just knew, the customer was having a bad experience, they're more than happy to take care of it. But that communication bridge is not there.
And by the way, before we got to that point, we were dabbling with a couple of other ideas that kind of had us pivot to where we are now. And we had a domain called bademployee.com, where the idea was to shame the business. So you would take a video or a picture of whoever's, the bad employee or slacking off.
Wow.
You would tag the business, and then we thought it could have legs, but the business model was such that, we're not charging anybody, and
Right.
we'll just be going on, and then we maybe advertise on it. And then after mulling it around for about, a few months or a year, I remember we're thinking there has to be a different way to monetize this. And that's when some light bulbs went off. Like, why make it a public shaming site? Why not keep it private and make it so that you're not really shaming the employee? You're just giving criticism and feedback on any part of the operation, be it complimentary or negative, and then have it go directly to management. And that's how we came onto the idea, well, we can charge a fee, monthly fee or so, for the business to have this service implemented.
Sounds like a more engaging way to do a net promoter score, to some extent, where you're giving that direct feedback, but it's something that's actionable. How's it been going so far? How's the uptake with enterprises?
Been really, really good. Our first big customer was actually here in Dallas, a company, the American Airlines Center, where the Stars and the Mavericks play. I knew some people there, and that we did a presentation, and they absolutely loved it, but they said they don't know what the engagement would be. So we launched in December of 2019. They had a previous program in there where you would send a keyword to a short code. But it wasn't very successful. They said that, I think, in all of 2019, they had received somewhere around 25 or 30 messages for the entire year. So I said, look, let's put our platform in. It's QR code based. It's much easier than to remember a short code with a keyword. A lot of people, that was great back, about 10 or 12 years ago, but that's not really anything that anybody does anymore. So we launched it with the QR codes in select areas. And the first night alone, we received 42 feedbacks. I was during a Mavericks game, and now they're getting a constant stream of really great insights from fans and from employees. One of the things that when we built this, we didn't even think about the employee side of it. The employees are there more than anybody, but a lot of times they really don't have a path to management. They're embarrassed to say something. They don't want to complain.
Sure.
They don't want to be that, the Karen that's always complaining about stuff in the workplace. So half the feedbacks that we see that are coming in now from retail environments are actually employees seeing something, and there's, using the platform. It's web-based, so nobody has to download an app on the consumer side, and just going to the website and putting in, hey, we have some light bulbs out in the storage facility, or whatever it is. So now they can let management know in real time. And the beautiful part about this, rather than NPS score, which is a huge measuring tool for companies, is there's a response. Right. So most surveys, and then when you fill out an NPS type of survey, or when you fill out a standard survey, nobody ever expects anybody to reach back out. We make it crystal clear in both our marketing and when you're submitting that somebody is supposed to reach back out to you. You will get a response. And it's usually, we actually put a lot of emphasis in that response time, because you're getting somebody that's having a negative experience a lot of times, and you want to respond quickly and save that relationship and save that experience in the real time, in the moment, while that customer's in your business.
Well, it's such a clever insight as it relates to employees, because there's a full-on war to get talent, and it's even more difficult to retain talent, particularly in service sectors. So part of that is lack of engagement, poor culture. It seems like no one cares about what they're doing, and it seems like you guys address that problem. It's very clever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've actually, because the more we do this, and we've been doing this since 2019, we've been actually marketing it. And of course, pandemic, shut everything down. But now we're, back at it. We've got a lot of pilot programs going on. We just finished a large pilot program with Ford. At a large number of their service dealerships. They have a thing called Quick Lane, which is their express lube. And then we had 4 months of data come in. They absolutely loved it. Now we're going national. They have almost 1,000 locations nationwide. We're talking to a lot of other car manufacturers, because right now, if you notice, the car market, there's not a lot of inventory out there. So the service department is really carrying the dealership. That's where all the revenue is being generated. And it's really, really important to keep the customer happy that's coming in for service, because once the inventory comes back, they want to make sure that that customers continue to come to the service department, because that's when they buy a vehicle. While they're there for 2 hours, they might walk around in the showroom and buy a new car. So they want to keep that customer there. And if they go to a Jiffy Lube or one of those other, third-party vendors, and they don't have that opportunity to capture that customer. So that's really important. We're launching Grocery stores. We just launched a chain of grocery stores. Party City's about to do a pilot program with us as well. I mean, these are all traditional type of brick and mortar locations that are really, really feeling the squeeze right now with employees. And if you're turning your customer into your eyes and ears, they're able to let you know about deficiencies in your business that you otherwise wouldn't have known because you just don't have the staff to properly address issues.
What are the kind of major industries that you see using this app? I mean, is it industry specific or, favorited?
Yeah, so I mean, right now we just launched our first hotel, and it's getting incredible response. We came up with this. We applied for a patent. It's called a trigger code, where you don't even have to tell the business anything. Just simply scanning the QR code sends out a pre-selected message. So if you've been to a hotel recently, you've noticed that you have to call downstairs to get your roommate up. A lot of hotels are no longer making up your room every day because they just don't have the housekeeping staff. So you're required to call downstairs and say, "Hey, I need my roommate up." Well, that's it's pain for a lot of people. A lot of people don't like talking on phones anymore. I've got 6 kids, and every time I call my kid, one of my kids, they text me back and said, "Hey, what do you want?" I go, "I want to talk to you. That's why I'm calling you. Answer the phone." But the generation probably 35 under, they just want a text message. They don't like calling the phone numbers. They don't want to dial an 800 number. So what we did was we put QR codes on the inside of every door. And as you're walking out, it says, if you want your roommate up, scan this code. As soon as you scan that code, it says, you're about to send the message, make up room 315 to housekeeping. Would you like any additional, anything else from housekeeping? So you can add, hey, I need extra shampoo, or add coffee pods, or I need more towels. So now you can just send that. It goes straight to housekeeping. They respond back with a thumbs up, and then you're happy, they're happy, because they don't have to sit there taking phone calls, and it's all digital. It's a really, really cool, very easy system for people to navigate.
Another industry that seemed to be a really good fit is, Adam already touched on that, the arena space.
Right.
And as you can imagine, when you're going to see a game is packed. This is actually a very typical situation where there's a belligerent, somebody's in front of you, they're getting really drunk, or they're cursing. You don't want to start a scene, trying to flag people down. You don't really know who to tell. This offers the guest a very discreet way to communicate with management. And American Airlines Center actually uses this for this exact situation all the time. They just route somebody over there. They take care of the situation. We had another situation also at American Airlines Center where there was a concession stand that was scamming customers. They were offering unlimited refills, but they were then, as soon as they would sell, make a bunch of sales, they would shut down. And the people would be, well, where do we go? They're going back for the refills. And people were complaining, like 2 or 3 people were complaining about the same concession stand. And it's a third party. And the American Airlines Center operations found out what was going on. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
Actually, I'm sorry, the American Airlines Center, the girl that's in charge of the arena, Gina Chapa, last month was awarded by the NBA the Pete Weinmiller Guest Experience Innovation Award for 2022. And in her interview, she talks about how it was primarily brought on because she put in the feedback platform to really engage the guests, to let them know about issues. They even have it in every suite. So if you want, another 6-pack of beer or no more nachos, you just scan a QR code, you go, hey, I need more nachos in my suite, and boom, it goes straight to the person that's in charge of your suite, and she comes right back with, your 6-pack.
That's fantastic. I also think that it's very empowering to just be able to have that feedback, but also be anonymous, because I'm sure there are people like me who don't like to raise just an issue with people. If it's not that big a deal, I'm not going to bring it up, but it's not worth going to talk to the manager in person. But I definitely impacted my experience. And so I do think that that is very important for a lot of people like that. And so have you seen any trends with something that managers typically find important for their business versus what customers are reporting on? Like, oh, I didn't even realize that this was something that we would get feedback on.
Yeah, so actually we have a bunch of restaurants on our platform, one of which, if one of the first ones we launched, is a chain of 24-hour diners here in Dallas. And the diner chain is known for late night on Fridays and Saturday nights, where people come in, half drunk till 4 or 5 in the morning, and they cater to that crowd during that time, where they play louder music, and it's more of a party, kind of a festive atmosphere. Well, they had a bunch of complaints from people who showed up on Sunday morning, like at 7 o'clock, to have their, Sunday brunch, or their, read the paper, have some coffee. And, we had one restaurant that had several complaints that at 7 o'clock in the morning, the music's still blaring. And most people won't call the waiter over and say, hey, can you turn down the music? But now if you make it a seamless experience where I can just scan a code and send something. So that was something that they didn't know about. They also got complaints about, hey, you've got a tremendous amount of dust caked up on your fan. So when you work at a business, it's things that just become background. And when you see stuff every day, you just don't notice it. But customers do. And if you're giving them the platform to tell you about things, leaking faucets, overflowing toilets, we actually, another segment we're going after right now is property management. We own our own building here in Dallas on the tollway, and there's always stuff that's breaking. But a lot of times, half the people at our building are not even resident. They're not tenants; they're visitors. So now, if a visitor walks in, you're out of paper towels. If I'm a visitor and I'm in a high-rise building and I walk in, you're out of paper towels. I just wipe my hands on my pants and just, oh well. But if I'm giving them the opportunity to let me know when there's out of paper towels, or when there's a toilet overflowing or something's going on, that goes straight to our maintenance guy, and he's on it, within minutes, rather than having to find a puddle of water and made its way to the hallway. So it's really great to have in the moment type of information come through at any time.
The Arkansas Inc. podcast provides an in-depth look at the latest industry trends in Arkansas from decision makers, business leaders, and executives. The Arkansas Inc. podcast has focused on a range of business and economic development topics, including small business and entrepreneurship, international business, fintech, workforce development, and community development. Each episode, which are about 30 minutes long, features business leaders and subject matter experts in conversation with knowledgeable members of the AEDC team. Recent guests have included Governor Asa Hutchinson, UAMS Chancellor Dr. Cam Patterson, Conductor Managing Director Dr. Jeff Standridge, and representatives from companies including Amazon, Walmart, IBM, Ozark Integrated Circuits, and more. The goal of the podcast is to help provide more information about Arkansas and its strong business environment, to help business owners and executives make the decision to move to or expand in Arkansas. The Arkansas Inc. podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and other podcast apps. Just search for Arkansas Inc. To learn more or subscribe to Arkansas Inc. podcast, visit arkansasedc.com/podcast.
Yeah, Victoria, the way you described how your kind of temperament is, that's exactly who this tool was built for. There's the majority of people are like that. People have, I think, a misconception about Yelp and Google reviews. Most people don't do that. There's a certain type of person that goes and leaves a Yelp review, or gets revenge on a business that did them wrong. Most people are actually just readers of Yelp reviews. So there's a whole swatch of guests and customers that are kind of silently having bad experience and leaving, and then either thinking, I'll just never come here, or I'll tell my friends. But those are the people who are the silent majority that really need a voice, and that's what this tool was catered to.
I want to take you down a little bit of a different tact here. I mean, I think it's impressive that this is a family business. You've got multiple generations of the family involved. It turns out we have listeners in over 100 countries now, and a fair amount of engagement. But there's always this question sometimes is, can you make a venture work if you've got a bunch of family involved? My son is one of the managing directors here. We've worked together for 8 years. I'm a big fan of it. You get a mixed bag of views on it from venture capitalists and others. And I'd just be interested in, you guys have obviously been successful in it. Talk about it. What's it take to be successful when you've got family involved in ventures like this?
So, Kfir and I have a really good dynamic because we both bring certain things to the table. He's a more level-headed one. I'm more of the gunslinger. And a lot of times he'll talk me off the ledge, so we have conversations, and he brings, the voice of reason, where I bring the voice of chance. And so we have a really, really good dynamic. Not to say that we haven't had our definite blowouts, but we've always, maintained, we after 5 or 10 minutes of maybe yelling, we always come back to the center and work it out. But the good thing is we're stuck with each other. So that's really, one of the things that's different, and the positive of having, doing business with family is that, we have a very, very tight knit family unit. So, I understand, a lot of, I have friends that don't talk to their family members or even their parents anymore because of money or business or et cetera. But, we have a very, very tight unit. And I know that I would never choose a business over the relationship I have with my family. So it keeps us where we have to, figure out a solution rather than, and we can't fire each other. So, it's been interesting. We've been working together for 17 years. And he actually, when I first started the personal assistance company, it was just an idea then. And I was doing it with somebody else, and he kind of backed out the last minute, and Kfir was working for another firm. And I called him up and I said, hey, I've got this idea that I want to explore, but I have to go to India. Our first call center we wanted to do in India, and we've quickly abandoned that. But I called him up, and he was recently engaged at the time. And I go, hey, you want to go to India and start a call center? And he called me back an hour later, and he talked his then fiance into, hey, I want to go do something with my brother. And we've been together ever since. So it's been a crazy journey. It's great when you have somebody to celebrate with that's family. We have had a lot of big wins, and it's great when you have somebody that's close to you that you can celebrate that with.
I agree. And it's typically a lot less transactional. And if you're rallied around the same purpose and the same mission, there's a lot of satisfaction.
Yeah. I mean, look, but I think the secret is that everybody has to be on the same wavelength as far as work ethic. Because the last thing you want is where, he's told me and I've told him before, hey man, what's up with the hours? I'm busting my butt here. And then it's the vice versa. Sometimes I like to vacation, and sometimes I let things slip, sometimes. And, we can both tell each other, hey, I expect more out of you. And it's easy to have that conversation, but we're both very, very hard workers. And I can't imagine having the same dynamic. My dad actually had his brother as his business partner, but more of a, hey, I need to help him type of, and it was toxic because one did all the work and the other one, was riding on the coattails. And that's very toxic because there's a lot of animosity. Now they don't talk anymore.
Wow. I mean, it's good to get those perspectives though, because a lot of people wonder about it. And the other thing that's interesting is planning for succession and all that, when you have multiple generations involved, it sort of, as founders, figuring out how to work yourself out of a job and building that next echelon of leadership is always really important as well. So it doesn't become kind of a cult of personality. It's something I think about a lot with this business. We've been at it 15 years, and Brett, my son, who's essentially our chief operating officer, he's the one that turned it from the sort of ad hoc side hustle into a process-driven business where, we're able to grow it. But it makes a lot of difference to think about what comes next, so that the business survives beyond.
It's a wonderful problem to have, huh?
It is. No, it is. It is. And if you think about it, the survival rate for any new ventures is low. If you get past 1 year, you're doing something. You get past 5, you're doing something. If you get past 10 and 15, you're onto something. You're going to figure it out typically. You guys strike me as the type that are not complacent and that are always hungry. Ergo, you've launched a new venture based on seeing a problem in the marketplace. So I mean, how do you manage between the two? You've got this one kind of existing large business. Now you got the new venture. How do you manage between the two at this point?
Well, I mean, we really put the other business really on autopilot because there's only so many car manufacturers you can go after, and we pretty much talked to everybody. And right now with the car sales the way they are, and our product is really intended, the Maestro personal assistant product is really supposed to help car sales, but right now they're selling every car that they can without any issues. So we've kind of taken the brakes off, or taken the foot off the pedal for that. It's on autopilot. We have the clients that we have, and we've really spent the last 3.5 years living and breathing feedback. And back to, like Aiden's involvement now, he sees a different side of me that he's never seen before, as far as, in the work environment and all the things that I'm taking care of. And then he brings a fresh perspective, because you have employees that'll give you their peace of mind and their ideas. But I think he's feels a little bit more liberal to say exactly what's on his mind, because I'm his dad, rather than somebody that you're paying to be there. So not that I'm not paying him, but nonetheless, he tells me, hey, why don't you try this? Why don't we try that? I think that a lot of employees might not voice their opinion so freely, because they feel like you're the big boss, and they don't want to kind of steer you in a different direction. So it's great to see that that we have somebody that can now give us a different perspective on stuff.
And I wouldn't call what our other business currently on autopilot necessarily, or just that we put some really talented and
yeah,
hardworking.
I'm talking about the sales part.
Yeah. Oh, the sales part. Yeah, the sales part's kind of
That's all I care about is sales.
yeah, like you have the right people in place. You can sleep at night knowing that they know what they're doing and they're going to show up and take care of things as they come up. That's really, if we didn't have that, I think it'd be a lot more difficult to do what we're doing with feedback.
Mm-hmm. So what's winning look like for feedback? You know, as you've got this great traction, you've been at it in the last 3 years. What's it look like over the course of the next 5?
I mean, we're right now just, you know, we when we first started, we were going after small and medium-sized companies, local companies, and we quickly realized that to scale our platform, that's gonna really take enterprise type of clients adopting the program. So that's really where we steered our efforts. We know it's a longer sales cycle, a much longer sales cycle, because you have pilot programs and buy-in and legal issues and IT and all sorts of things that go in. But once you build a platform that works and that they adopt, it's, you know, it's a long serving solution. One thing that we are about to launch is a self-serve model where customers can just go online. They pay, you know, anywhere from $49 to $99 a month, and they get their own QR code. There's very little involvement on our part. They just, you know, put their credit card in, they get a QR code, they download the app on their phone, and now they can start marketing the QR code in the platform to their clients without any, you know, because we have a bunch of bells and whistles. So we're going to remove all the bells and whistles, just dummy it down where it's, if I want to get feedback from my customers and be able to respond to them, if for a small business, a florist or whatever it is, they can do that very easily. But, you know, to answer your question, enterprise clients where, you know, they're actually, you know, having the QR codes everywhere, they print on the receipts, they send an email out saying, hey, you know, because the emails you get now are all one directional. Any survey you fill out, nobody's ever responding to you. You're just giving data back to that company for them to use in the big picture. But the customer doesn't really care about the big picture. They care about themselves. And if you give customers a way to voice their concerns and then get an answer back from the, you know, manager of that store that they were just at, say, hey, sorry about your experience. Come by next time and I'll buy you a cup of coffee for your problems, or whatever it is that they want to do to try to get that customer to come back in and have a better experience. Not the manager's aware of their, you know, their negative experience last time. You know, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, you know, they often say that there's that silent majority out there that are not writing reviews on Yelp or on Google, and they're voting with their feet. They're just not coming back. And,
right.
And this way, you've got a chance to engage them at an important moment of truth, to where you can keep them. You know, it's difficult to retain customers. This strikes me as a really good way for the customers to feel like they actually care about what we think, and they're not just going to blow it off or assume everybody will show up regardless of the experience.
Right. But I mean, one of the things is you have to respond, though. That's one of the things when we go into a business to go, look, do you really want to know? Because if you're just saying you want to know and just going through the motions of acting like you want to know, but then when somebody tells you something and it falls on the floor, then it's not going to work for you. It's going to be worse than if you didn't have it at all. You really got to make a commitment that if a customer has a problem, a legitimate problem, and he submits something, he or she submits something, you have to read it, you have to respond, let them know that you got it. And we make it very, very easy. But if you don't care, you don't care.
Right. Yeah, it's got to be kind of something that's ingrained in the culture, or else it's probably not going to work even with this type of tool.
Right.
That's great. I'm occupying all the airtime as usual. I'll turn it over to Victoria and Davis.
Well, Victoria, do you have any more questions before we kind of land the plane, as we like to say?
I don't have any more questions. I feel very, I mean, like I said before, I am that silent customer who votes with my feet. Just had a bad experience at a restaurant earlier this week, but it wasn't so bad that I needed to tell someone. In my mind, I made up that I'm not probably going to go back there pretty soon. But yeah, I think this is really cool technology that you guys are bringing to the table, and empowering people like me to actually give feedback that I know is valuable and needed. So I think it's very exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Fantastic product, fantastic idea. Very excited to see where this goes in the next 5 years. But yeah, we usually kind of start to land the plane of the podcast with a pretty theoretical question, kind of put you guys in the hot seat. If you could go back in time, maybe before Maestro, maybe before real-time feedback, maybe before then, if you could give your younger self any advice, what would that advice be?
Don't ever take your foot off the gas. I mean, I've had times where we've won big, got
Mm.
big contracts, and go, okay, I can relax now. I wish I never did. I mean, I want to go full throttle because you're just building on building on building, and you're exponentially growing your business rather than relaxing.
Right.
I'll relax later on in life.
Mhm. I love
Love
that.
it.
Kfir, do you have any?
Sure. Yeah, I'll probably tell myself to be a little bit more ahead of the curve on research on what's coming, because it's so easy just to be a consumer of the news and like, oh, cool, like it's kind of going there, and you kind of find out where everybody else find out. But if you look hard enough, you can find out certain trends that are probably going to hit, and you'll know about them a couple of years more than the average consumer of news does. And I think that would have probably helped us make better decisions, in certain points in our trajectory. That would have been a lot more beneficial.
Mhm. Mhm.
Fantastic.
I love it.
Well, guys, if our audience wants to find out more about feedback or wants to connect to you about Maestro or anything else you're working on, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Realtimefeedback.com.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Hey, we really glad to have you guys on, and I'll say it again, having your son in class was a treat. I'm glad we were able to make the connection, and have a great upcoming Independence Day. We were really happy to have you guys on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
Definitely.
Really.
Ecosystem builders, entrepreneurs, chambers of commerce, mayors. If you're interested in taking your economic future into your own hands, we've got a book that can help you. Creating Startup Junkies, Building Sustainable Venture Ecosystems in Unexpected Places is the guide. It's a little bit inspiration. It's a little bit toolkit. What it will allow you to do is take your economic future into your own hands and build a sustainable small business, innovation, and entrepreneurial ecosystem in your backyard. If you'd like to hear more, check out creatingstartupjunkies.com. The Startup Junkie podcast reaches over 100 countries and has had over 100,000 downloads. If you're interested in reaching some of the most motivated and engaged innovators and entrepreneurs on a worldwide basis, give us a shout.